بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن كنتم في ريب مما نزلنا على عبدنا فأتوا بسورة من مثله وادعوا شهداءكم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 23. And if you are in doubt about what we have sent down upon our servant, then produce a surah the like thereof, and call upon your witness other than Allah if you should be truthful. So this ayah is beautifully linked to the previous, because in there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us to believe in Him, and He brings some evidences. Now in here, this is basically called Sidqi Kitab, the authenticity or the affirmation or the confirmation of the book. Like, why should you believe in this book? Yeah, this is basically in here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you evidence. And in here is also Sidqi Rasul, the truthfulness of the Prophet as well. So the truthfulness of the book as well as the Quran itself. Because this is the only connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this connection that we believe in this Quran, if there are any doubts, or if there are any issues whatsoever that comes between you and this, then the connection that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be cut off. You will have problems. In a different place, as we again and again quote, that this Quran is being called a habl, a rope of Allah, hablullah. This is what has been called. So this is between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a pathway. If there are any issues in this rope that there is, this Quran, then we got a problem. We got a serious problem. We will not be able to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is important, that what this Quran is all about is authentic and is affirmed. So in here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives challenge to such people who have any source of doubt about this Quran. If you have any doubts, if you have any reservation, if anything is eating you, what you can do is to bring another surah or another surah like the Quran. No, the entire Quran, bring a surah like of it. Inshallah, we'll talk about this later on. So now, we had so far previously, we had three different groups. Those people who were muttaqeen, meaning their conscience was still alive. As soon as the Quran was presented to them, it was like an empty gap that was there, and they filled that gap with it. And the example of that is Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like it comes in Surah Al-Duha. When we do Tafseer of that, you'll be able to understand. Example of that is Abu Bakr and so on. As soon as they heard about it and they understood, that's it. They understood that this is what they were looking after. Similarly, nowadays in this country and other countries, you will be able to see people who read the Quran and they said, oh, this was talking, this is what I was searching for. Yeah, they were thirsty, they were looking for it, and as soon as it was given to them, they will grab it on. So these are basically muttaqeen in that fashion. And then we have other types of people that Allah mentioned, they call munafiqeen, or not really munafiqeen, those people who are in doubt. Mudhabdhab they call, yeah? They are not really sure. That kind of people. So Allah calls to them, ponder over the Quran, think over the Quran, listen to the Quran. The Quran sings, like فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَنْدَادًا وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. You know, you already acknowledge this, but there is some sort of dust on it. So think over this Quran and it will take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now the last group in here, which is the vicious criminals who wants to challenge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those people who are full of themselves, that our ways are the ways. It's me, or it's like my way or the highway, that kind of mentality people. They want to challenge Allah, so this is what has been talked about these people. Allah challenges those vicious criminals. And as we all know, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges, or the answer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, it is normally at the end of the da'wah. It's not at the start. So whenever you're giving da'wah to the people, this is not how you start. If you're really truthful in your ways, go bring a surah. No, this is not how it starts. Like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started in its beautiful fashion. It touches, it's a personal touches that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave right from the beginning. Ya ayyuhan nas. That's how it starts, in a beautiful and lovable tone. So that's how we start with da'wah. Everything is exposed on them. They don't want to accept, they're full of themselves. This is where the last thing comes in, that bring an evidence or challenge what this Quran has come with. Stand up against Allah if you are brave enough, basically. This is what happens in here, in this ayah. So this is just a few things I wanted to put at the beginning of the ayah, even though there are lots of other things in there, but we'll go to the ayah straight away. So وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا. And if you are in doubtful about what we have sent down, meaning if you are doubtful, there is no doubt whatsoever in the Quran, but if there is something, if something is eating you, yeah, like something is bothering you, then here is a challenge. عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا, upon our servant, on our servant. And here it does not say عَلَىٰ رَسُولِنَا, yeah? It says عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا, because previously, it's beautiful link to the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks is amazing. It's just we need to little bit think over it. Previously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhan nas u'budu. Yeah, Allah is telling people to become abd, become servant of Allah. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you an example. If you are really looking to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then here is a practical example for you. This Rasul. So whatever he has done, the way he has obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you do it, then you are really the servant of Allah. If you do it in any other way, then you got problems. And we have already talked about what abd is, but basically, just to understand, The abd, this relationship between a slave with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as being master. Any other slaves that we have that we understand in this environment, if you say this is a slave of someone, then this is like the worst kind of title you can ever get. But when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is the best thing you can ever get. No matter how you think about it, even if in just a worldly manners. What does a slave represent? When you become a servant or when you become a slave to someone, what does this slave have in his entire life? Is to please his one master. That's it. No one else. So what is going to happen when we become only slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Our only focus, our only goal will be Allah. So now we're not going to be worshipping our own whims and desires. We're not going to be worshipping our own peers, the people that we are surrounding in. We're not going to be worshipping our culture, what our culture is saying. We're not going to be worshipping our society and so on. Our fashions that comes, the new trends that comes in. We'll be completely free from all those huge shackles, only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is a freedom in the slavery of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like there is a saying of one of the Mujahid who was, I think it comes in the history. A Persian commander asked him that, why? What are you doing here basically? Have you come for the wealth that you have seen, or have you come for the beautiful women basically? Is this your purpose? So I think the Sahabi, he responds in a beautiful fashion. لِنُخْرِجَ مَنْ شَاءَ مِنْ عِبَادَةِ الْعِبَادِ إِلَىٰ عِبَادَةِ اللَّهِ إِلَىٰ عِبَادَةِ رَبِّ الْعِبَادِ. That we only have come to take people out from the servitude of the people to the servitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the master of all the people. So this is basically the concept of Islam, that Allah, or the Quran of Islam, or the deen that Allah has come with, that Allah has sent to us, is to take us out from the slavery of so many things only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will be free from so many burdens, we will be free from making so many people happy, only to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. So it is a freedom when someone accepts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thereafter Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِثْلِهِ مِن مِثْلِهِ, not even مثله, yeah? مِن مِثْلِهِ. Then produce a surah the like thereof, meaning even remotely like this. Yeah, this is a challenge, which is to produce Quran basically, or to produce a surah like this. And this, what it entails, there are so many things. That's something that has been revealed, that's one thing. Something that has the same level of guidance, something which is free from doubts, contradictions, suitable for all, stand the challenges of all time. And there are so many other things that are involved in this. Can someone do that? This is not possible. And inshallah we'll spend a few minutes what the surah word means. Yeah, what the surah represent. So they say the Arabs at that time, they didn't use the name surah for like unit of words. They could call it qasida, they call it like kalam or bab, that's what it was called, but it was never used surah. So this is a completely new and strange word that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like they did not use it for words, they used for other things, but they did not use it for the units of word. So this was a new thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduced for the units of word. So what does it represent? Yeah, and this is also there is a reason behind this. Yeah, some people call like a surah of the Quran, a chapter of Quran. But this is not right, because you'll be able to understand this is not the right translation, because the surah itself is unique and it has its special meanings. Now those little ones who have played Assassin's Creed, yeah? Who has played Assassin's Creed? You all know, yeah? A long time ago, basically the ancient walls, the big walls, the huge walls. This is what used to be called a sur. And this is around a very important things. Yeah, it's not like it doesn't the kings, whoever builds this, yeah, it's been built by kings. It's not built by anyone else, because no one has the financial stability and the people and the labor to do that. So it is one built by kings. It is built around very important things. It's not just built around like a tree or something like that. It is something that no one can climb over easily, no one can make a hole in. So this is what basically a surah is. So how does it represent? Yeah, so I have put it in easy manner. So if you to put in perspective of the Quran, what does it represent? So we said it is something which is around high value, something which is worth protecting. So this surah, a surah of Quran, what does it have? It has the guidance, it has tawheed, it has risala, belief in qiyamah, the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposes the people, the traits and the habits of the people that we need to be informed of. So it has these kind of treasures. Like how a surah, this big ancient wall, has these treasures under it, and that's why they have the wall around it. Similarly is the situation of this. And other people, the books that had come before, they were not called surahs, yeah? So they were not protected. And the Quran is protecting. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given protection to it. And do you know the Arabs at the time, one last point, and there are other points, but we'll stop here so we can understand what surah is basically. The Arabs did not have surahs, yeah? They were living in deserts, they were living in tents and things like that. Where did they see the surahs? When they traveled to those far away lands like Persia or Romans, that's where they saw these big ancient walls. So they did not see it. So that, like how that surah did not belong to the Arabs. Similarly, the surah that has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about does not belong to them. It hasn't been produced within them. It has come from far away king, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one other point, the surah, the ancient walls, they are built from the bottom, upward. The bigger they are built, the stronger they are. And what does this surah has come from? From the above. So what does it say? That those surahs, those big ancient walls, you can somehow climb over it, or you can do something about it. However, this surah, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed from the above, there is no way whatsoever. So even in the name, there are so many indications that you cannot overcome the Quran. What the Quran, what the surah encompasses is full of treasure, it is of value, and it is not built, or it is not being given by some random person that you can take over. It is from the King of all kings. So if you stand up against this surah, who you are standing up against? You're standing up against the king. You're standing up against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why we said this is the last resort in da'wah. This is not the first. So at the end, when someone is so stubborn and they don't want to accept, then that's why they're told, go do something against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you are so strong. May Allah make some of those people who understand and who implement the Quran, who understand the value of the Quran. Wallahu a'lam.